This build is all about getting as many utility slots as you possibly can. Check this out. We have a mask with 42 damage to elites. Don't pay too much attention to which mask this is. These stats are really all I'm looking for. I want to have DTE do plenty more damage. You can get this at DZ South this week. 18% skill haste, you want those mines coming back as fast as possible, as well as the Firefly. Destructive. Explosive damage is always welcome on an explosive build, no? Yeah. Alright, so the backpack. This may be a strange offshoot from a backpack you might know and love. So, there's a backpack like this, where I have a skilled talent, destructive, utility slot, offensive slot, some skill power, and weapon damage. But with this build, I'm going to be putting this one aside. Even though it looks great, it might be great, this is the backpack I'm going to be using. I still get that skill haste from the Alps Summit. You get a huge pack of skill haste right there. That's actually fairly large. I think you can get up to 38, 40%, something like that, but this is pretty big. 32%, then you have 352 skill power. This is a medium to low roll, but honestly, this is like just enough to make this stuff work. Down here we've got the skilled, 25% chance to reset skill cooldowns on skill kills. The whole point of this build is to explode things more and more and more often. So the faster you can do that, the better. More kills you get, the more kills you get. That's how we're going to go for it. I would prefer to have some explosive damage on this, but damage to elites is actually close to comparable if I'm using my rifle enough. So I don't want to lose out on that. Utility mods in the slot. This is why I chose the Alps Summit backpack. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just stacking as many of those as I possibly can. And that's for our next star of the show. BTSU data gloves. Everybody's using them. Let's see how I'm using them. Obviously, I'm going super high with my utility. That's the whole point of these gloves. What you really want to do is check this out. The skills that apply status effects. That's the important bit. If you don't do this, then you don't get the credits. You get the infusion through creating status effects. Infusion, right here, gains 10% to skill damage, skill healing, repair, and skill duration for each one of these 13. That means that I have a boost of 130% skill damage, skill duration, skill healing, and repair. This build is all about using any skill that you can to make it as good as you can. These things are great. Of course, you can't refresh the status effect until it's over, but it lasts 60 seconds, which is enough to pump out up to 4 or 5 chucks of the mines. That's fantastic. Alright, but while you are infused, you have charged proxies. Whenever you throw a skill, a second and a half later, second and a quarter later, after it lands, it creates an explosion. This explosion actually is pretty comparable to what a mine would do before getting infused and everything. So it's somewhere around 400 to 500,000. I've seen it do more. Enemies affected by infused status take 50% more damage from your skills. In other words, if you burn them to get your status effect and you hit them again with this charged proxies talent ready, they take 50% more damage from your skills. So what I'll be using is the blind. Blind is reapplicable every 10 seconds and it lasts 10 seconds. Guess what that means? You're going to have it every time it's down. So that way you do as much possible damage as you can. But we'll come back to that. BTSU gloves. Okay, so they come with these slots. You can't change them, but you might as well put stuff you want in there. I'd rather have something with them disrupt or bleeding or anything like that for the raid. That way you can pump up your hazard protection in those particular areas. But this works just fine. It's not really like it's important, just a slot to fill. Then we have utility mods all over the place. These ones are all just whatever because you're going to have so many of them. You kind of want to spread the field so that you can actually get everything that you have available. I got Firefly, Turret, Chem Launcher, and Seeker on this one piece. So this one is like a smattering of what the rest of the build kind of looks like. Heading out of here, let's go over to the chest piece. This seems a bit odd, this chest piece, to want to use an Overlord, but I chose a rifle, and I'll come back to the rifle in a second. So that is the reason why I chose this chest piece, and I think it's a little messed up. I need to fix this right here. Alright, so it's going to be 13%. I haven't re-rolled it yet, but I have those in the bank. I did this for rifle damage, so obviously I want that to be weapon damage. Rifle is what I chose because I want this to be a medium to long range build. I want to be able to take out targets that are annoying me from a distance, and I'll be sitting further back in the group. You can use this as a solo build. Generally in the solos, though, you only have 4 or 5 targets after you, and you can kill them pretty quickly with this. So in a raid situation, you kind of want to step back and help out from a distance, and everybody else is going to take the aggro from up close. So the 20k health, obviously I'm not really worried about this stuff, but this is what this one rolled with, and I will roll with it. I would rather have a huge amount of skill power, but the point of the skill power is really just to reach like a critical mass, and since I have so many of these utility slots, I don't have to worry too much about getting these rolls very high. This is just my opportunity chest piece to actually get some of the damage out of it for my rifle. I don't want to be completely useless and down whenever a dog dies, and you have no way of using any skill. So, hard hitting. We want to make sure that we have something here that is good for our build overall. This is not the place to be putting a Berserk or an Unbreakable. So we just put a standard passive, hard-hitting, or explosive damage on here in order to keep it real. All right, down here in the defensives, obviously what I was saying before, you want to bolster your resistances. We got shock, blind defense resistance. We've got burn resistance and ensnare resistance. It's again because you're sort of doing the all-inclusive stuff. You want to make sure that everything that you have on is sort of like a smattering, so that you can be defensive in every direction. Now, if you have huge ones, big stacked ones, like 63%, something like that, yeah, obviously put that on. But these simple ones are really what I'm looking for, just so that I have one of everything. If I get into a situation like mid-raid where there's the poison or whatever, I want to have a really big poison mod. Now, that means that I'm going to have to fix up my loadout, make sure that everything in my loadout is ready to swap on a dime right before any of this stuff. But you see how it fills up. This is an alternate character. This is the build I'm working on right here. Oh, I got to save it. And there's the saving problem. There it is. Either you can repeatedly tap it, or you can half go through another one and come back over here and save. I know I have that problem. I don't know how many other people are having that problem. But repeatedly trying to save it, make sure you hold down that R button all the way through. With the knees, I've been having a conundrum between two different talents. The reason is because of the mods on the Seeker mines. So see here, I have 2 damages and 1 skill haste. The skill haste is so big that I don't have to worry about the cooldown at all. But if I change this to have more mines, cooldown goes to 20 seconds. So these mines will deploy in 3 to 5 seconds. And then you'll be sitting here twiddling your thumbs for up to 10 to 15 seconds waiting for your next mines to come out. And hopefully you killed something, because then you're going to need skilled to proc in order to get it back. So, with that in mind, with the knees, if you were to take calculated here, every kill reduces it by 10%, and that'll get you your stuff back super quick, plus the extra skill haste right here. Now if I put these on, you see I drop in skill power because I've lost that 420 up there. But if we go into stats, we can see all the things that are turned on, as well as down in here, our skill power. Because of all the mods that I have on, I actually have quote-unquote hidden skill power, 2822. So if we go back into our skill here, and we go down to search through, you see I can't get that damage turned on. That's sad. I bet you I have a better mod somewhere in there. Oh yeah. Well, this is a red mod, isn't it? Let's put in some rifle. There we go. And then find a mod in here that I don't really need. Like this chem launcher, I'm not going to be using there. So I'll put in Seeker. Now I have this one because it was so high in skill power. Yeah, I guess I'll use that one real quick. It still counts as a utility mod, right? But this makes it so that my skill power isn't as important as an overall, but I get it up to... Where you at? 3221, which will turn on the Seeker Mine's abilities. This way I can have extra damage stuff in here and get them 6 mines. I know that I can get these above 90%, but as with everything, it's all about luck. So I can do so much more damage with this. I'm doing about 40% less damage than a friend of mine who's got the build put together a lot differently than me. He went for full explosive damage. He's doing a little bit more than me. I mean, 40% more on his skill, but I think that I can overtake him if I just get the exact same mods. That's gonna be fun. A little competition inside of the build community here. Always enjoy that. The reason I chose these knees, though, was because it just gives me that extra explosive damage. These are the China Light Industries. I wouldn't worry about something like this. This is really all about finding the right attribute and talent combination. As long as you have something in here, a passive or a yellow stat, you can find the right piece. It always will roll with that offensive mod slot. That's just a little bit of a stat stick for your rifle. The last piece here, the more important piece, ongoing Directive Holster. Now, it seems odd to use just one piece of a set, because I don't even get the weapon handling out of it. But this one can give you up to 4 utility slots. No other holster can do that. 600k skill power. You can get more, but this is actually modified to 100%, so I can't go beyond this modification. So this was a maximum. I probably rolled from a 700 down to a 604. But I wanted that high skill haste to go with it, and obviously, like I've said, skill power is not really a problem with so many utility slots. Down in the utilities, obviously, I just changed this one. I'm going to change it back, but that's only because I needed it for a second. I had to bump this up to 3,000. Now it's at 3641 because I put on a piece that has 601 on it. So you can use a bunch of different combinations here. The Seeker Mine Blind is the easiest and most consistent because of the 10-second cooldowns you can get. That way you have the ability to chuck this pretty much every time you go through a rotation of blind, taking cover, throwing your Seeker Mines in just the right spot. You want to be able to play a little football there. If you land it right on their feet, that explosion expands right at their feet and they all get hit. Then you get the giant mine explosion, which actually hits multiple targets if they're close enough. You get a huge explosion. You can take out an entire wave of enemies in one hit. 431,000 damage. This is going to bolster over 130% more damage if you do this in the right order. The blast radius of 4 meters doesn't matter too much, because if you do it nice and close enough to each other, they can all get hit at once. Number of mines, this is something that I play with all the time. We have this pistol up here with recharge, and you want to make sure that you're deploying at full armor at all times, but sometimes you don't. So I would take each situation as you see it. If you're starting to see more than 4 mobs coming out, switch over to more mines, less cooldown time. With more mines, you're going to be doing far more damage, and often you'll get kills and get that skill reduced over time. Also, with more mobs, you'll have way more need for your weapon, so you're going to start using that a lot more. You're not going to need recharged all the time, but it's definitely good just to put on a pistol. Okay, so the blind. This is the important trigger for the whole build. Again, you can use whatever skills combination you like, as long as you have a skill that you throw at a location. You need to have the skill actually land on the ground, and that's where it spurns the explosion. But in order to get that far, we need to get infused. That infusion from our BTSU gloves requires that we put a status effect on one of the enemies. That status effect is only qualified through skills. In order to get certain status effects, you need to have the right skills in here. You can have a bunch of different combinations, but Seeker mines can be thrown. When they land at a location on the ground. That is where it spawns the explosion point. Other ones, like the hive, that one also lands where you throw it. The turret also lands where you throw it. Pulse also lands where you throw it. Only this one, the remote pulse. But these ones, the drone, the chem launcher, Firefly, and obviously the shield, none of those get thrown at a location. Firefly seems like it does, when in fact it's actually flying. You throw it like a paper airplane, and it takes over and guides itself from one to the next with a little rocket booster. So it's not actually thrown at a location so much as it's flying and zipping around. You have 3 skills that can cause status effects. You have the Firefly, cause blindness. Your turret can be the burning turret that will turn on your status effect. The pulse does not. However, the confusion pulse does. Starting to wonder about this one, because you see this, it says the status effect from the disruption on an affected target. The jammer pulse could end up being quite good. Yeah, you can use the Fire Starter for the chem launcher. You can also use the riot foam. But one of the problems that I have with these is the low ammo. So you're going to need that cooldown to be super quick. So the reason I'm using Firefly and Seeker mines is because they're extremely consistent. It does not matter which group you're in. It does not matter what your build's really going for upstairs here, unless it's just this BTSU combo. It's a 1-2 punch, and you're trying to do it as many times as you possibly can. But if ever there's some downtime, which sometimes there will be, you go to the weapons. Let's find out why I'm using these 2 weapons. On your rifle, you need to have the rooted talent. Now, you could have the talent that the pistol's carrying here, the recharge, but you're not going to be using recharge nearly as much as getting extra damage, and so you need to have what primary you're carrying cover that really important rooted talent. This rifle was actually quite awesome to get. It's strange to think that there's a different meta for some things. Stable makes this rifle incredibly stable. I'm actually firing at its standard pace, but it does not move the reticle whatsoever, which makes Rifleman that much better. Now, you're not going to get this thing to work tons of the time. If you're really bad with your aim, you're going to want to be using the Ranger or Optimist. Optimist could work really well for this since it has the low mag size. As you get lower and lower, your headshot gets better and better. But again, those talents work in the 2 and 3% range. Whereas Rifleman, as soon as you get that first headshot, you get a second one that's at 10% better weapon damage. If you get a second one, you get one at 20% weapon damage. And since we're going for headshots, I decided to use a Nemesis. The Nemesis gives you a bonus to headshot damage when it's in its holstered slot. It requires that you scope in with your current weapon, but the C79 scope 3.4x, this one gives you your damage to elites on your primary. This one counts as a scope when using it. So you get your damage to elites as well as extra headshot damage that's hidden from here because it's part of this holstered talent from the Nemesis. Let me know what skill combination you plan to use in your build down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe for more Division 2 content to come. Thank you.